Thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome, Steelworker family. Welcome to our union's 2025 Constitutional Convention. I can't tell you how proud I am to be here with you today and how proud I am of all the work you do every day to make our union the best damn union in the world. I don't think I need to tell anyone how important it is for working people to have unions like ours. The kind of power we generate with our unity and our solidarity, the way we use collective bargaining to balance the scales and achieve our fair share of the wealth we create, because that's the vital work all of you do every day. We stand up to greedy employers and advance our core values. We demand that workers be treated with dignity and respect on the job. We lead the fight to make our workplaces safer. We hold the bosses accountable for our priorities: enforceable contracts with fair wages, affordable health care, secure retirements, a voice on the job, not just for us, but for generations of workers who will follow in our footsteps. That's our union, the power of our union. And by using that power, we've done some pretty remarkable things since our last convention. Across our industries and sectors, we've bargained fair contracts, some with the highest wages we've ever achieved. But we all know our work is more than just wages. In our basic steel contracts, we were able to create vacation time and parental leave time so that our members could maintain a strong work-life balance. It's about supporting our families financially and also being there to raise them. In paper, in tire, in other sectors, we made major headway in eliminating two-tier systems that were meant to divide and weaken us. We fought for and we won contracts that reflect the fundamental value of our labor. And we've been winning common sense policies like domestic violence leave language for workers to prioritize keeping themselves and their families safe when they're facing threats at home. We did this and much more, all of us together. Through our solidarity, our commitment to one another, our passion for justice and determination to succeed, we are the union difference. We are the USW. And we've proved that there's nothing stronger than what working people working together can get done. You know, there's a phrase you might hear while you're here in Vegas: all in. And even though I'm sure none of you have really taken the time to step inside of a casino while you're here, you know in that context what it means. But I want to talk about what it means as union members to be all in. All in on solidarity, all in on activism, all in on workers' rights. Because it's true that as union activists, we hold nothing back when it comes to our mission of improving workers' lives. All in on bargaining we do, the organizing, the fighting for policies and protections that advance our priorities. But being all in isn't a one-time action, and it certainly isn't a bet. It's our way of operating 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. It's about believing in each other, even when we don't know what the precise outcome might be. And right now, there's a lot of uncertainty for a lot of people in both our countries. Yet, even in these times, we know never to walk away from a fight, because sometimes the fights take years, sometimes even decades to win. As an example, that's what we did at ASARCO, where we spent more than a decade fighting for justice. And you know, when we talk about greedy corporations trying to profit off of workers' backs, there's no clearer example than ASARCO and its parent corporation, Grupo Mexico. Back in 2013, ASARCO management decided to pick a fight with the workers by withholding a profit-sharing bonus from new hires. They thought they could bully us get us to give up. But I'll tell you, even though it took years, we fought them all the way to the Supreme Court to get ASARCO to pay what our members deserved and what we had bargained for. You know, along the way, they committed countless unfair labor practices, even forcing us to strike, but we stayed all in. We refused to back down. Just last year, we finally ratified a contract with wage increases of over 27%. And we'll keep on fighting, because nothing can stop us when we're all in. Now, there's no doubt the deck has been stacked against workers in many ways, and it always has been. Greedy CEOs don't just try to bully workers in the workplace. Their obscene wealth buys them influence in our halls of government, too. Sometimes these fights can feel overwhelming. When we see the already filthy rich pulling the levers of power to make themselves even richer. But I also think you know, as well as I do, that there's no room for despair. No way we can just sit on the sidelines. There are so many people, both in this union and beyond, that are counting on us to be all in on workers' rights. We need to look no further than the anti-scab legislation that our union helped get passed in Canada. A victory that took decades of struggle. The legislation becomes effective this June and bans federally regulated employers from using replacement workers in the event of a labor dispute. Take a moment to think about what that means for workers, what it will mean for our members when they sit down at the bargaining table and the employers won't be able to hold the threat of hiring scabs over their heads. Now those employers will have to think twice before they try to impose a lockout or force us into a strike. We did that, brothers and sisters, through our unity and our determination. We're balancing the scales against powerful foes. This same level of commitment also helped us repeal the so-called right-to-work legislation in Michigan. Maybe some of you haven't had to deal with this right-to-work nonsense, but let me tell you about it. This is anti-union legislation that is in effect in 26 of the U.S. states. And it allows workers at union-represented facilities to opt out of paying dues, while still enjoying all the benefits of the contract, including our obligation to represent them. Corporate America loves these laws because they allow freeloaders to feed off their unions, to drive wedges in our solidarity and attempt to weaken our bargaining leverage. And it's no surprise. Studies have shown that wages and benefits are all lower in states with these so-called right-to-work laws. The history is Michigan rammed it through their right-to-work law legislation during a lame duck session in 2012. But ever since then, we've been organizing and fighting back. USW members at the grassroots level have been coordinating efforts to elect pro-worker candidates and push them to repeal this anti-union legislation. It took over a decade of hard work, but last year, Michigan finally repealed its right-to-work bill. When we duplicate these kinds of efforts, we win on other issues too. But to do it, to turn back the tide of economic injustice and corporate greed, we truly need to be all in. We can hold nothing back, and we need every member to join the fight for as long as it takes. We need to bring this kind of commitment, this kind of unity, to all of our current and future challenges. And look, there's always going to be challenges. Challenges that impact every corner of our union and affect every one of our members. Take, for example, our fight on fair trade laws. Our union has been fighting for fair trade for decades, as far back as when I.W. Abel was the international president. And in fact, I would argue that no organization has done more to hold trade cheaters accountable than us, the United Steelworkers. Our union has participated in 20% of every trade case filed in the United States. And in Canada, we've successfully pushed for trade remedies to stop China's illegal subsidies, lack of labor protections, and non-existent environmental standards. Our union is leading the effort to revitalize commercial shipbuilding. We filed a petition last year to hold China accountable for dominating this sector through their illegal non-market practices, which cost tens of thousands of jobs across the supply chain that our members produce. Supply chain issues like steel and cables, boilers, pipes, fittings, pumps, glass, coatings, and much more. All that work is incredibly important because we've seen what happens when China and other bad actors illegally subsidize their industries, dump their products into our markets, or route them through third countries. In rubber, metals, paper, glass, beyond, tens of thousands of jobs we've lost. We know better than anyone the devastating impacts of bad trade on workers and the ripple effects that creates in our communities. How service jobs that were once bolstered by manufacturing disappear. What happens when our tax bases of our communities get hollowed out? How our schools, our police, our fire, even our members who work in public sectors, then all face cutbacks and job losses. But I tell you, trade protections must be implemented strategically and thoughtfully against the cheaters, not implemented in a way that negatively impacts our economies or costs us jobs. Delegates, we have so much more in common than any differences. And we know that in this fight, as in all fights, working people are so much stronger when we stand together, regardless of what industry we work in or what side of the border we live on. This is the clear difference between the work we do every day, fighting for what's right. Now, the current antics of the current U.S. administration is an administration that has decided to drive a wedge between our two countries with an unnecessary trade war. You know, I imagine all of us in this room understand better than most how intertwined the U.S. and Canadian economies are. Just as one small example, our Canadian crude oil goes into keeping our U.S. refineries running and our oil workers employed. You know how many times a product crosses the border as it's being manufactured? And the number of times U.S. and Canadian workers have shown up for each other during labor disputes, and how much this alliance benefits workers in both countries. I want to say this very clearly. The way Donald Trump is treating Canada is just wrong. Implementing or even treating double-digit tariffs on a reliable trading partner is wrong. Trolling our allies by calling Canada the 51st state is wrong. Treating a decade-long partnership, throwing tens of thousands of jobs into jeopardy simply to satisfy an ego is wrong. And an attack on Canada is an attack on all of us, and our union won't stand for it. Unfortunately, this isn't the only urgent threat we're facing. We've seen decades of corporate greed fueling rising economic inequality, a system in which the rich get richer while workers see real wage stagnation. We saw the world's wealthiest individuals add trillions of dollars to their coffers over the past decade, using bad trade deals and weak labor laws. We've watched them profit off a pandemic and its aftermath, while some working families live paycheck to paycheck, while seniors cut pills in half to save money, while veterans who have bravely served their country live on the streets, and others have seen the promise of veterans' benefits decrease or access to benefits erode. And we're seeing too much of the work we've done to restore a measure of justice to our economy being jeopardized. You know, I'd like to do a little math with you, because these numbers are important for understanding what's happening in our global economy. Many of us run our families on a monthly budget. We pay the bills, the mortgage, the car payment, utilities, groceries. We put a little something aside each month, maybe for an unexpected emergency, or maybe to help our kids from time to time, save up for a much-deserved vacation. But here's the thing about a billionaire. A billionaire, a person with exactly $1 billion. That person would, if that person spent $1 million a month, every month, after 80 years, they still would not have run out of money. Someone like Elon Musk, who, by the way, is a notorious union buster, who has openly thumbed his nose at workers' rights to organize, whose net worth runs into the hundreds of billions of dollars. He could spend $1 million a day, $1 million a day for 200 years, and he'd still have billions left. So it's not just that billionaires don't share our values. They don't even live in the same world we do. And when we hear Musk say that there will be a need to sacrifice so we can realize his vision of the country, I think it's pretty clear. He's not talking about his sacrifice. He's talking about the hundreds of thousands of dedicated workers, union members, he's put out on the streets. Workers who help keep our food safe, fight natural disasters, safeguard public health. He's talking about air traffic controllers, educators, auditors who ensure that rich people like Musk aren't cheating on their taxes. He's talking about tens of thousands of workers at the VA, many of them veterans themselves. He's talking about closing Social Security offices and limiting access to seniors. Now, many in this administration will say they want to protect Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, veterans benefits, and many other social services. But the fact is, if you restrict access to those benefits, you reduce that benefit if people can't apply for it. So when Musk is talking about sacrifice, he's talking about us. He wants us to suffer for what he thinks his vision is. And sure, what you hear the most is we need to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse. I agree. I'm sure you do too. We should eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse. But there's certainly a right way to identify it, a right way to fix it, and then there's a wrong way. And by throwing the baby out with the bathwater is the wrong way. What about our priorities? Fair contracts, affordable health care, secure retirements, safe workplaces. Those aren't wasteful. And we should not forget what the real waste, the real fraud and abuse is. The $1.8 trillion in proposed tax loopholes and tax reductions for the wealthiest few. That's his justification for the elimination of thousands of jobs and the safety net that workers depend upon. And let's not forget the billions in government handouts that Musk's own companies have received, or the way he's attempting to avoid collective bargaining agreements, twisting and perverting our labor laws so that he can control the system. We need to look closely at who's profiting and who will bear the brunt, because I can assure you there's a pattern. It's not the corporations that will get hurt by gutting the National Labor Relations Board, the agency that's tasked with upholding workers' rights in the United States. It's not the billionaires who will suffer as we see rollbacks at OSHA and MSHA. It's not billionaires who are counting on Social Security and Medicare programs, which we all pay into, so that we can secure and achieve a dignified retirement. It's us, our families, our friends, our neighbors. And yet here we go again, facing the prospect of a giant tax cut for the ultra-wealthy, and to pay for it, right-wing lawmakers and their billionaire backers justify it by saying they'll pay for their tax cuts by eliminating much of the needed services and benefits of working people. Here's the real truth about the chaos that Musk has created. It's just not about helping his buddies, the ultra-wealthy, get wealthier. It's about making sure we don't get our share of the wealth we create. It's about keeping us distracted with useless fights about which bathrooms people use. It's about using words like diversity, equity, and inclusion to ignite the next version of a Red Scare. They want us fighting each other based on our skin color, or our gender, or our country of origin, so that we don't notice as they're making it harder and harder for workers to organize unions, or that bargaining is becoming more and more lopsided in favor of unscrupulous CEOs. And that's because they know how powerful we are when we're united. Reflect on the wins I've mentioned today. Think about the kinds of change we could see if the system wasn't rigged. So of course they want us divided, so it's easier to control us, so that we're not using our collective voice to demand our share of the economic gains. But you know what? We won't let them, because we, each and every one of us, we're all in. So what are we going to do? First of all, we're going to organize like hell. We've already seen some tremendous gains over the past 3 years as workers in mining, forestry, higher education, steel, healthcare, manufacturing, and more have all joined our union. We've welcomed security guards, road traffic control workers, baristas, and energy workers. From British Columbia to Puerto Rico, we're all stronger when more workers exercise their right to collective bargain. And as we all know, unionized workers have better wages, up to 20% better, and greater access to affordable health care and retirement systems than non-union workers have. No one understood this better than my friend and our late International President, Tim Conway. He was the one who started our initiative to identify and train member organizers. He understood the importance of this one-on-one, day in and day out work required to grow our union and expand the benefits of our movement. We know, he knew, when our union density increases, our bargaining leverage increases, and we get better, more fair, more equitable collective bargaining agreements. You're going to hear about it later today and later throughout this convention, but because of this sort of grassroots worker-to-worker communication, we're winning in areas like in the U.S. South that have historically sought to keep unions out. Because being all in means that there's room for everybody in our union. It also means we have a role to play. Those of you here in the room today clearly understand that being a union member means being an activist. Maybe some of you will be or are organizers. Some will take leadership roles in your local executive boards and grievance committees, in other important positions in the local unions, or become a staff representative. Perhaps you'll join a constituency group through your area labor council, or get active in the Women of Steel and the Next Generation programs. They're helping us to tackle a very ambitious agenda to help us become stronger and more resilient. We need everybody, everyone, standing up for each other in whatever way we can. And I know many of you already are doing that, answering the call. You're building ties with your communities. You're making your workplaces fairer and more equitable. And thanks to all of you who are stepping up, and sometimes even stepping out of your comfort zone, you're finding new ways to lead social and economic change. We're also continuing to foster stronger mentorship connections with our locals. And with the help of our SOAR chapters, we're building intergenerational solidarity that pairs the best of what our experienced, lifelong activists have to offer with the new energy and fresh perspectives of the next generation of steelworkers. Our Veterans of Steel committees are making huge strides, advocating for policies inside and outside our workplaces so that former and current service members can have better access to the resources that they've been promised. Through our communications department, we're offering a wide variety of tools to help empower local union communicators, providing access and support for local union websites, texting programs, social media, and more. And because we understand knowledge is power, our Education and Membership Development Department is expanding its offerings of both online and in-person classes so that our rank and file members have the information they need to win at the bargaining table and effectively enforce our contracts. We're doing all of this and more because we're all in, all of us together. And I got to tell you, I certainly encourage you to read more about all the work we're doing and the power of our union in our officers' report that's in your packets. It's a great document, a document that talks about all the hard work all of us are doing together. But all this work, none of it is easy. None of it comes without a struggle. But we've proven that when we put our minds to it, there is nothing USW members in our union can achieve when we put our minds to it. And look, when it comes to beating back the billionaire agenda and righting the economic scales, our work at the bargaining table is going to become even more and more important as we fight back against an assault on agencies and regulations designed to ensure workplace health and safety. And by the way, there's a bill that's been introduced in the U.S. House to completely eliminate OSHA. When that sort of stuff happens, we need to be ready. We need to bargain strong health and safety protections. And we need to hold our employers' feet to the fire to see them enforced. We must remain focused in our workplaces, identifying hazards and pushing management to take our concerns seriously. And our health and safety and environmental teams here to help. We must meet the attacks on civil and human rights with strong contracts that promote our values, that hold the line on favoritism, that beat back attempts to silence workers' voices, that counter efforts to divide us. And instead, we need to promote fairness and unity. And while we're on the subject, we need to counter the lies, to speak the truth about diversity, equity, and inclusion. We need to say it out loud, that a plurality of perspectives makes us stronger. We need to say out loud, without fear, that equity simply means fairness. Diversity simply means people who are different from each other. Inclusion simply means to welcome all people, regardless of those differences. These are union values. Values that our union has stood for since the day we were founded. And as we brace for attack on affordable health care and secure retirements, attacks we know are coming, we must ensure that we're fighting like hell at the bargaining table to make sure that at every turn, we're getting our fair share. Because this is the real difference between union members and billionaires. While they're busy trying to keep us down, we're building each other up. As workers, we share a set of experiences that shapes our values of working hard, of promoting dignity and respect on and off the job, of working together so we can succeed. We give back to our communities. We fuel the economy. We work together to make sure no one gets left behind. And that's why we fight for our vision, our values, and our goals. Now, I'd like to tell you that this is enough, that we can go into bargaining every few years and walk away with everything we need to be secure. But you know, I know, that's not how it works. We know that greedy corporations fight us at every turn. And that's why what we accomplish at the bargaining table, our ability to realize our priorities, is often tied to government as well. We've seen this play out in real time, sort of the good, the bad, and the ugly. We've seen what happens when we elect pro-worker candidates. In Canada, we fought for and won legislation that protects pensions so that employers in financial distress have to recognize our needs before they resolve the claims of lenders and the banks. We made advances in universal pharmacare and dental coverage, not just because these are fundamental human needs, but because widening access to them means we have more space at the bargaining table to advance other priorities. In the United States, we saw historic investments in our infrastructure and supply chains. designed not just to make our communities safer, but to also regrow domestic manufacturing and help workers access their right to unionize. It's working. We passed the Butch-Lewis Act that restored retirement security for 120,000 steelworkers who participated in the NIGPP and PIAF pension plans. So we know what we can do when we do it together, when we elect the right people who share our values, and then we push those officials to fight for our priorities. We need to say at every single one of our elected officials should know, no matter what party they're from, that we're watching, that we expect them to do their part in promoting an economy that works for everybody, not just the billionaires. When we do this right, we hold all the cards. And if you're speaking about cards, we need to continue writing postcards, signing petitions, making phone calls, showing up at rallies, advancing the rights of all working people. We need to visit legislative offices and encourage our families and friends, our neighbors, to do the same. We need to build out our rapid response networks, our nonpartisan issue-based alert systems, so that when somebody tries to sneak in some bad legislation, we're ready and we're loud. If we want to beat Musk and his kind, who have no interest in us achieving the American and Canadian dream, if we want to balance the scales and ensure working families get their fair share, we need to work together. We need to stand together. We need to be all in. We must out-organize, out-educate, and out-bargain them. We need to be strategic. We must be willing to take on the hard fights over and over again until we win. We must flex our collective strength and make so much noise, but they have no choice but to listen to us and do what we demand they do. As former International President George Becker always said, failure is not an option. We win by being all in. Thank you, brothers and sisters. This will be a great convention.